Okay, now some tips for organizing and naming files, and I think you guys are going to find this to be informative and fun. So any one research project includes a bunch of different kinds of files. You've got data files, code books, data cleaning and management files, analysis files, graphs, tables, lots of different kinds of files. How are you organizing these? Where are they going? What are you naming them? Let's talk about it. So a directory structure. What is that? It's the way that files are organized on your computer. And directory structures have kind of become trickier in some ways to see as computers have become more user-friendly, because some of the background stuff is hidden, so you don't know where things are necessarily. But a directory structure is just basically the files you have to click on to get to the file that you want. And so what I recommend doing is for each research project you have the same folder structure. So you always have a folder for your papers. You always have a folder for your code. You always have a folder for administrative stuff, things like that. So for every single project, you know where that kind of file is, so you don't have to change your brain around for each project, right? Every project has the same folder structure, and you are going to that same folder structure within a project. It helps you find things. It prevents mistakes like writing over somebody's code or creating another version of the document that's already being created. And in doing so, it saves time. This is a lot. These are all files. So focus on the farmost left column for me. So this is what, when I open Dropbox, I see. So I see a to delete folder, a to file folder, an active folder, an admin folder, a bookshelf, templates, and vault. Once I click on my active folder, I see grants and research. I also see service and teaching and whatever, but I'm just kind of showing you guys a pared down version. I click on research. I have several different research projects. Then within each research project, they all have this basic design. And so I'm going to talk to you guys about what these folders are and what it means, but I just wanted to show you, I click active, I click research, all of my projects are here, and then I go into each project. I also have a vault where when I finish a project, it goes there, and it has a similar, the research projects within there have a similar design because that's where they are. So what these folders all stand for. How does it get balanced with collaborative projects? You hope that you all become on the same page-ish. You say, okay, this is kind of the file structure I'm working with. You see what file structure there is, and you try to adjust it so that it's as similar as possible to your other folders and to their other folder structures, and make sure you guys are on the same page as much as possible. So I have a colleague who likes to call this writing. And every time I'm looking for it, I get a little bit confused, but I know that that's at least the folder where all of that is. I have another colleague who likes to put the writing inside of the work folder. A little bit stressful again, but at least it's not, I have like 17 different folders for each journal that we're submitting a paper from a it's like, at least I know anything that's like a manuscript is going to be in this place, might be in a slightly different place, but it's in a place. Good question though. Okay, so in my main directory, do I need this later? My to delete folder, I'll just kind of put it in there if it's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. A junk drawer, we all need the place where we put the ketchup packets and the rubber bands, because if we don't, it's gonna like clutter up everything else. So this is the folder where I put things that I don't know how useful it's gonna be down the road. I have an active folder. This is stuff I'm working on. Administrative tasks, this is for like my annual review, stuff like that. Bookshelf, all of my articles go here. Every single article that I have that I'm working on goes in one place. That way I don't have a bunch of articles within a project. I can have that also, but I know that if I don't see it within that project, it's definitely in this one place. So maybe I have some articles associated with the project, great. But if not, I know that I have it downloaded somewhere and it's going to be in this folder. I have a templates folder because templates save us time. So I have a templates folder. And then a vault where things that I've deleted, it's kind of like a more intense posted. It's just like, this is where it is forever and it won't change. On the bookshelf, I have articles, books, and chapters. They all go there. Texts that span multiple topics. It's easy to find, and we'll talk about how you name them so you can find them all, but they're all there. And if you use something like Mendeley, Zotero is less good at this, but you can have it look at this folder and automatically upload all of your papers into the software, which is really nice. And this is a sociologist who is funny and said, I have a special game I like to play. It's called Try to Find That Journal Article You Read but Didn't Save by Using Ridiculous, a cross-section of keywords drawn from the depths of your ridiculous brain. Woof. If you just put this in this articles folder, you can at least think about the date in which you added it and find it broadly there. Much easier than this thing, which is super relatable, but we can avoid. Subdirectory, again, within my active folder, I've got teaching and other things, but let's pretend it's just grants and research because we're talking about research projects right now. Within my research project, all projects get a 2 to 4 letter acronym, which is really nice. And all of the files within that project also get that 2 to 4 letter acronym at the beginning of them. I'll talk more about that in a minute, but they're all there. We want those mnemonics, project mnemonics acronyms to be short to keep the names from getting too long. So 2 to 4, unique, so you can search for it. You don't want the, that can be, oh, Joanne, templates that I use. So like, I might have a LaTeX template for a journal that I use. They're like a Word document where you have the title in a certain kind of font. You have header 1, level 1 headings in a certain kind of font. You have level 2 headings in a certain kind of font. I have a template for literature reviews that I share with my students. I have a template for my slides for presentations that I can just hop in there, use that template, kind of decided on what I'm going to do and go forward with it. So things like that. Yeah. Filing, not piling. I love that. Yeah. Search can be helpful, but you don't want to depend on it. So yeah, you want to avoid things like the or dog because that might occur in other people. I mean, I don't know what you're writing about dogs, but if you are, like if you're a veterinary science person, that would be confusing. So something that's going to be unique to search for, usually not a word. And you want it in the title to every file related to the project. Then within the research project folder, posted, we already talked about that. So you guys know that. Again, your to delete and your junk drawer. You have a junk drawer even within each project. So this is the junk related to this project. So maybe you submitted like a little tiny abstract to something that you never thought you'd get and you didn't know if it should go in writing and you're like, I don't know where to file. So anytime I can't figure out where I would put something, I find it in the to file. Mailboxes are kind of fun. Within the mailbox folder, I have a folder for each team member on a project and they can share files with me this way. So I'll say, oh, hey, I put this file in your mailbox, or they can do it back. I found this more useful on some projects than others. If people are messing up the organization, I use the mailboxes a lot more because I don't trust them to like be bopping around within the folders. But if they're doing great with the organization, I might use the mailboxes less, but they're nice if people are kind of all over the place with the file organization. I just keep them in their little mailbox and then it's good to go. Admin, things like IRB documents, any like grant related files where I have to update people on the progress of something. Bookshelf, again, we know what that is. You can have it within a project folder or not. Design, so I have to do like experimental design. So I have those files in there, maybe some paper outlines, but often not really. Meeting notes sometimes, planning documents, that can go in there. Manuscripts can be stored here or in your work folder, which I'll talk about what a working directory is later, but one of those things. Presentations, again, optional to store here or within the work folder. Resources, things like code books, really helpful to have there. And then work, all data management and analysis, and it's where you set your working directory. And what I mean by a working directory is if you're in a software program like R or Stata or SPSS or SAS, you have to tell them where to look. So it would be like telling Derek, like, hey, go get that folder from my office. It's on the 3rd shelf on the right. It's blue. That's what a working directory is you're saying this is the one folder that I want Stata or SAS or SPSS or R to look at for any other file that I tell it to look for, only look in this one place. And so if you put all of your data management files, data analysis files, data files, everything in one place, it's really easy to set your working directory there. And then the software program is only looking in one place for a bunch of stuff. Make sense? More or less? Working directories. So if you're not familiar with working directories, maybe look into that because it will really change the game for you if you do data analysis. Within my working directory, I have a raw data folder. You never, ever change the raw data, ever. ever. Then I have a data folder where I've got my data files, an analysis folder where I've got like my script and log files, a management. You can also just have a work folder with a raw data file folder, and that's it. I like to break things up even more because I'm a filing, not piling person. But when I was first getting used to a working directory, I just had a work folder and everything was in there. So adopt this to what works for you. And then you can have figures and tables and so on. Really quick on file naming because we're running low on time. I was just so excited to share so many things with you guys, but you guys have access to the slides. Quick on file naming. Just have something that's standard. So at the beginning of every file, have your project mnemonic. If you call papers drafts, great. All drafts get called draft. You don't have draft without introduction or fancy introduction draft. It's just a draft. Then I have the journal acronym of where I'm sending it, and you have the date, and you do year, month, date. The reason why is I don't care if something from October of 2020 is next to something from October of 2019. I want 2019 things to be together, and I want 2020 things to be together. Even less do I care if something on the 7th of the month from something in 2018, October is next to something from the 7th of the month. And okay, you guys get it. Year, month, day. Beautiful. Also, these mnemonics help you find errors. So one time I was working on a file and it popped into the wrong place. You can see it much more easily if you've got the little acronyms there, you know, hey, you don't belong here, get out of here, and get rid of it. And it's not confusing to come up with creative names elsewhere because you just have that mnemonic. And so you can call it a draft and you don't have to get super descriptive with what the draft is because it's just a draft for that project. Pretty simple. I give you guys some advice on bookshelf naming. So take a peek. In review, top-down structure. We as PIs are responsible for this. So figure it out, share it with people, think through it, plan it. We want it to be as simple as possible to save time down the road. We want things to be standardized, like every folder has the same structure. We want to automate things as much as possible. So what I mean by that is, standard filing format for your bookshelf. Yes, it's lovely. By automation, I mean, if you can, to the extent possible, clean and analyze your data using code so that you can just run that code file, avoid pointing and clicking as much as possible. And I'm going to talk about that more in a later workshop I'm doing, but oh yeah, and you don't want spaces because they can break stuff. I used spaces here to show you guys, but in my own stuff, I don't have spaces. Basically dashes, capital letters, underscores, lowercase letters is what you should be working with. Peanut butter and jelly example. You guys know you've told somebody how to make a peanut butter and jelly, but they're like, oh, you got to walk to the cabinet and then you got to open the, it's just like a lot of different steps. The more you use code, the more you document things, the less kind of stuff you're having to share with people. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. A lot of this advice comes from Scott Long's workflow of data analysis using Stata, but it's more general than that. And so I talk about it differently. And Trent Mize and Tom Van Pueblen are some folks that I've worked with who are lovely and gave me some ideas for this presentation as well. So thanks so much. I really appreciate it.